Hey everybody, this is Frank and welcome to Midnite Snack. I'm super excited because today we have the one and only Andy Flatt joining me today. I consider him a friend and I met him as a customer, 25 years ago. Do you remember that?
I
Andy?
do. We were both a lot different.
Different
And younger, different.
25 years ago. Andy is an IT leader here in Nashville, but there's so much more than just being a leader. He's a great man. He's a father. He's a husband. He's a man of faith and is a regular attendance. And he's been. How long have you been in your church?
39 years this December. Yeah.
39 years this December. We'll get into that because what we're going to do, we're going to learn more about Andy, and we're going to have a midnight snack. So, the namesake today, Midnite Snack. When I have guests come on, I want to know, what is your midnight snack? When you're up at night, maybe solving technology problems, healthcare decisions, maybe family, and you happen to crave something, what might that be?
Well, you know, at my age, midnight is known as 3 hours into my sleep.
Okay.
When you go to bed at 9.
But
there was a time that I used to, and every now and then I'll get up and you know, I go toward what's there, and typically I get a bowl of cereal.
A bowl of cereal.
Well,
you know what? I happen to have some cereal here.
You have
today.
cereal.
I have cereal. I have got Lucky Charms, and I have, what else? Honey Nut Cheerios.
You know, those are both two of my favorites.
Two of your favorites. Well, which one are you going to pick?
I'm going to go with some Lucky Charms.
You're going with Lucky Charms. Yeah. I'm so glad you chose the Lucky.
Because you like Cheerios?
I like these, but guess what? I've got some more Lucky Charms because I wanted to have what you're going to have.
Wow,
so here you go. There's a spoon, and there is some napkins.
Can I eat it now?
You can eat it now. Look, I got milk.
Oh, I don't eat it dry?
No. We're doing it the full midnight snack here, folks. We've got Lucky Charms and milk. Now these Horizon organic milks, they're not official sponsors. Let me see how easy it is to open them.
Yeah, you open first.
You can't squeeze the side when you open the top because they're.
I see here.
Yes.
You know, and I have, you said father, husband. I am grandfather to 5.
Grandfather to 5,
to
folks.
5 grandkids, and so little things like this, I have learned how to open certain things because that's what they drink out of.
Juice boxes. Oh,
juice boxes.
Are you spilling it like I'm spilling?
You don't have grandkids yet. I hadn't spilled a drop. Look at that.
All right, episode of Midnight Snack with milk on the jeans. There's your spoon. All right. I'm glad you chose Lucky Charms because I also have fond memories of Lucky Charms that, they're not the healthiest thing that you can choose, but they're comfort food. So we're enjoying our midnight snack, Lucky Charms, and I'm going to get into some questions here, Andy. We learned a little bit about the fact that you're a husband and a grandfather to 5. What are some other things about you that doesn't show up on LinkedIn or in the bio that you can find on the post of all his career success in your IT and healthcare career that people may be surprised to learn?
You know, I've been doing IT 41 years here in Nashville, healthcare IT. One of the reasons I got into healthcare is that, you know, from the time I could pull a mower down the street, I was working. So there were most of my jobs have been healthcare related, even in the clinical side of things. So I worked in pharmacy, I worked in respiratory therapy in a hospital. I was an EKG technician. I was a donor services technician. So those are things at some point you take things out. Those were never on my resume, but at some point you start at a time and go forward. And so this was a long, long time ago. But you know, also I was an adjunct faculty member, and I don't know if this is on my LinkedIn or not. I don't think that it is, at Lipscomb University for 9 years.
Okay.
And back then I was just trying to put food on the table. So I was working and I was teaching, and then I was a worship minister for often 20-something years, 22, 23 years at the place we've been going our whole married life. So, and at one point I did all 3 of those at the same time. So faculty, healthcare IT,
and worship
leader. Yeah.
That was one of the things that I knew about you that I didn't think many people knew, was that being a worship leader and leading a congregation in worship was something that you did for many years. You're a good singer. And you recorded a CD that you gave me a copy of years ago.
I forgot I ever gave you that.
And it was so good.
I forgot
And
that.
you sang all the parts.
Yeah, somebody asked me, so can you do that live? I said, no, can't do all four parts
Can't do all four parts at the same time. Yeah, I'm super impressed
that's
by that.
the funeral CD.
And that was the other thing about you that I hope that you would say, but if you didn't, I was going to try to get you to. You said it's the funeral CD because folks wanted you to lead funerals for family members, right? To lead the music. Mm-hmm. And they would ask, and so that was a CD that you put together for that occasion?
Well, it started with one person asked me to record a song for their funeral, and then somebody else did, and then several family members. A lot of the songs are for specific family members, and woke up and there were about 12 of them. Then I had a person I worked with to listen to. He said, this is just funeral song. Put something peppy on there. And so some of those are just to keep him awake when he's driving. But yeah, they were all for specific people's funerals.
Well,
yeah.
it was well done.
Well, you're kind. It was done on a little computer at my desk, and when you hear a little air, that's not me. That's the air conditioner cutting on above because I don't have professional equipment.
Well, it was several years ago, and I really enjoyed it. Now, I'll say this. One of the things, and we're going to get to a couple of other things here that I want to, they're a little bit not necessarily fun facts, but things that I want to know introspective about you. But you mentioned funerals and that music for the funerals. You said something to me one time years ago about how much space or how much land does someone really need. Do you remember that quote? Do you remember?
No,
where
but
this
they
is
probably
going?
need about 6 feet.
That's what you told me. Because when you leave, that's the only space you need.
That's about all you got.
Is just that space in the ground. And I remember you telling me that, like, that's such a wise thing to say. And you also mentioned when we were talking about funerals that you had a desire at a young age to drive a hearse.
I did. And I came close to being, my professional career being in that business.
Wow.
We got married. I almost went back to school to be a funeral director, and before we had kids, and didn't. And so I've always had a fascination and got to drive the hearse that one time. And
wow. Well, that leads to another question I had. A pivotal point in your career or early life, like you mentioned, you made that decision, that you can pinpoint as something that changed your direction or confirmed the direction that you were going. Now, this can be, a personal event or a moment or some kind of advice that you got that you're like, this is confirming this, or maybe this was a sign to go a different direction.
I've always wanted to be in some kind of service role, and I think the IT part of my life, which is most of it, it's still a service to others, and that really comes from my father is a minister, and I grew up. He bought his first house after I bought my first house. We always lived in the church's parsonage, or the church's that one they owned, and we moved all over the place. And I grew up watching him serve, so I always had that role model and wanted to do that. But I'll tell you something that professionally in my IT piece of my career, and this came, unfortunately, it wasn't a pivotal moment in direction, but it was a very pivotal moment in what was most important in what we do in our businesses in technology. And it really only came about 10 years ago. I wish it had come year one.
Oh,
but
wow.
it's in the last 10 years it's changed the direction, because we're in service roles. I mean, most of us aren't in the business to do what our business does. I work in the nursing home business now. I'm not out in a room taking care of a patient in a room. I support the people that do. And about 10 years ago, we'd always done project management and taking care of the needs of the people that did the work in our own little pristine environment, and we'll program things that we think that, this is what you really need out there. And we had programmed some system, and it's when you go to a room and you pass drugs, you take drugs out of a cart and you give it to the patient. Mm-hmm. And we were in the prison and jail healthcare business. And so our patients were inmates. And so we had done this new best thing since sliced bread. And all of us, and when I say us, those of us in IT, were thinking, you really need to appreciate this stuff. I mean, you may not
Look
really
how
appreciate
slick
it like
this
this is
is.
slick stuff.
Yeah.
And we got a call and they said, appreciate it, but it's taking 30 seconds to do what it's doing. I think, man, that's not much. I mean, could you understand what's going on behind the scenes here? So fast forward, my people were, these customers are complaining, and you need to go out there and set them straight. Well, out there was to out West Coast, and it was to a jail facility, but this jail facility held over 3,000 inmates because it was California. I won't name the city, but it had inmates from jail and had overpopulated prisoners from the state corrections thing. And so, I fly out there, and my job is going to help them understand what they have. They should really be thankful for it, thanking me, not complaining to me.
Yeah.
And so the nurse said, it's just taking too long when I give that medication. I'm scanning their whatever, and it's sitting there, the little balls turning around, taking forever. And so I thought, I'll come out there. Made a trip all the way to California. Mm-hmm. And so we get back there, and we go in, and first of all, if you've ever been in a major prison, because we served Rikers Island in New York, we served some very interesting places. And that was very interesting to me. But we went in, and they, as you do, you go in, you can't take anything in with you. You get scanned. You go in, and they said, all right, here's the advice: when you walk down the hall, you don't make eye contact with anybody because you're going inside. And that's sort of my point. We've done everything. We're not a little pristine corporate office. You're going inside. The ones in the yellow jumpsuits, they're harmless. The ones in the red will kill you.
That's a good heads up.
Would like to kill you. And I thought that is good information.
That's a good heads up.
So I'm suddenly not thinking I'm about to read you the riot act of why you need to be thankful for me.
Right.
And we got in, and she said, come with me. And the problem was we'd stuck a Verizon hotspot on a med cart because we didn't have access in the jails to their stuff, and it just took a little longer. So us and a little Barney Fife of one of the
Security
deputies,
guard,
and you can't carry any weapon because that's just something that can be taken away from you. So we go down, and I'm wide out at this point thinking, don't make eye contact. And, the ones walking down the hall are handcuffed and shackled feet and waist if they're in the red. Mm-hmm. And she goes to a cell, and he puts the key in and opens up this huge steel door, and inside of it is 8 bunks, and there's 8 in red in there. And at this point, they're not shackled. That's their room, and they come one. They know the drill. They come one at a time to the door to get their drugs. And she scans the first one, and the kinds of meds that a lot of these people are on are kinds they need to be on, and they need to be on in a timely manner, or it can get a little rough. Mm-hmm. She scans the first one, and we sit there.
You're starting to feel the intensity of why it's taken too long.
That first 30 seconds was 30 minutes, because these dudes were mean.
Yeah. And
there were just the 3 of us, the 8 of them. So she does one, and there's 8 of these, one at a time. And when we're done, I didn't say a word, she didn't say a word. And literally she turned with me in tears, and this is where it really got real. She turned with tears in her eyes, and she said, 30 minutes is a lifetime. That's all she said.
Wow.
I went back. I said, all right, we got to rethink this thing. We serve them. They're using software we create. And from then on, any business that I'm in, I seek to understand, first of all, who's the customer. Mm-hmm. She was our customer, number one. And number 2, understand the environment. Go into the environment. Mm-hmm. I spent time in nursing homes when I first started in the business I'm in now. I worked in a hospital. I slept overnight in the bed one time just to say, what does it look like to be a patient? Because,
this was since where you are now.
No, that was before that, but I had just done that, because I had some notion of you want to understand the business, but I never really did understand it until not only was my life in danger at that point, but how we were doing things put other people's in danger. And ever since then, anything we do, we go into the business. We don't sit in our nice little project management office at corporate and say, here's how we're going to dictate how you do technology. You're our customer. If I had learned that early on, that would have. I wish I had learned it a lot earlier.
And that was one of the questions that I had, was some advice that you wish you had when you were younger, and you kind of answered that with that one, with what you experienced in that pivotal moment there. But what advice would you give someone starting out, like not necessarily in your career that you have now, But just as a professional or just as someone looking, I don't know what I'm going to do for my career. What advice would you give them to kind of help fine tune their direction? I mean, I'm asking that to you as someone that I see as successful, that you've had a long career, you've got a strong family. I mean, I'm honored to be with you, be your friend, but how you would advise someone is important to me. I think there's value in how you would advise someone.
That's a good question. I think, several things come to mind. One thing that I've been thinking about recently, and it's something I've hoped I've done and shaped my career after, but I really learned it in Vacation Bible School, and I think now I thought that's pretty good advice. I'm a man of faith, and so the notion of service and servanthood. But I remember learning joy: Jesus first, yourself last, and others in between. So I think about
Jesus.
that. The J is Jesus,
others.
O is others.
Why is myself last? Yourself last.
Serve God, serve others, and then the rest will take care of itself. But if you put the why too far up, it won't.
It won't spell joy.
So that was one thing that I thought of. But the other, I heard a quote years ago, and this has resonated with me. I'm not only just in the second half of my career, I'm in the end of my career. But somebody said, in the first half of a career, you seek success. And then in the second half of your career, you seek significance. And the more I think about that, and the point here in a second is in our business particularly, but in any business, the networking component, getting out and learning from others and being around others, any successes I might have enjoyed or been a part of, I have found have typically been because of the significance of the relationships of everybody that helped. If I've ever had a success, it's only because I'm standing on the shoulders of somebody that paved the way or did something for me. And I would tell others is, learn to serve and learn how to work with others and grow and understand you're not all that. I don't care how far up in the company you get, you're just not all of that. The last thing I would say, and this is something I beat myself up on it, and I don't like to call it failures, but in life, in your job, you're always going to have setbacks. And if you get into leadership positions, you're going to have things happen. And you're going to second guess yourself and beat yourself up. And I would dwell on those things. What could I have done different? And you can almost paralyze yourself because you don't do anything because you don't want to make a mistake. And what I would tell myself, my young self, and I'm still trying to figure this out, is don't treat a failure as an opportunity to do something better the next time and learn from it. And if you're going to fail fast. Don't dwell on it because you can paralyze yourself. Pick yourself up, learn from it, and move forward. And those failures or those setbacks will be part of why you're successful in other things because it's the lessons you learn.
And I've heard a quote, and I can't remember who it may be, but it says, "I never fail. I only succeed or learn."
I like that even better.
And I think that's what you're saying.
I've had a lot of learning opportunities.
A lot of learning. Well, I've got another question that I think will be fun, and it is this. You're saying you're toward the end of your career, but you've seen a lot of other careers. You've had acquaintances, friends over the years, or even things that maybe you've seen on television. If you could trade jobs with someone else for 1 week, meaning you're out, but you just want to try it for a week, what would that be?
So I'm not going to be the person. I'm going to do their job, right?
Well, you could be the person. There's no rules, but you can answer it both ways.
I would love to live the life through the lens of a week of Elon Musk, and I'll tell you why. It's the schedule management that he must have, in addition to his brilliance and all things Elon, is to do what he does and get done what he. Now I know he doesn't sleep, so I don't want to be a week of that, but the efficiency of his day must just be incredible, and I would learn so much from that. I'd love to be in those shoes for a week.
Be efficient. Well, that's
Might
good to
last
know.
a day or less, but
that's good to know. Well, we're going to wrap up. I've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed my Lucky Charms.
I have too.
So thank you for watching Midnight Snack. I have enjoyed building these relationships, and the point is to learn more about someone that I see as successful, someone that is proven to be successful in many ways in areas of life. Learn from them, but also get a little peek behind some personal side, some of your success stories, and enjoy a snack. And I also want to thank TMG, which stands for the McCracken Group. I work for TMG, and in this post, you'll have information about TMG. You'll have information about Andy, and appreciate you joining us. So, cheers to our Lucky Charms. Thanks.
You ever had a bowl of these and picked out just all the marshmallows and just eaten those?
Sometimes I just choose the marshmallows. Yeah.